What's up, everybody? I hope you're ready for the next episode of... This week we'll be talking about Moses and the burning bush. You can follow along in the book of Exodus chapter 2. Let's first talk about what was happening around the time of Moses' birth. The Pharaoh at the time was threatened by all the Israelites that were in Egypt. He thought that they would eventually rise up and take a hold of his power. So Pharaoh then enslaved Israelites and forced all of the Israel boys to be drowned in the Nile River. At this point, the Egyptians made the Babylonians look like the Brady Bunch. During this time, Israel cries out to God for help. God answers her by allowing an Israelite woman to place her baby in a basket and float down the Nile River. The funny thing is the basket ended up floating right to the Pharaoh's family. Can you guess the child's name? Yes, Moses. Moses was the name of the child. Now, let's fast forward a couple years to when Moses was much older. One day, he walked around the yard and saw what Egypt has done to his people. Now, you're never gonna believe this, but in the distance, Moses saw an Egyptian beating one of the slaves. At which point, he goes over there, looks both ways, and kills him. What, you don't believe me? Read Exodus chapter 2, verse 12, and you'll find out yourself. Now, the next day, Moses went out to the yard and saw two Egyptian guards fighting with each other. At which point, he asked the guards, "Why are you guys fighting?" The guards then said, "Who made you prince and a judge over us?" I feel like that's where we got the term, "Who died and made you my boss?" or however it goes. The guard then continues to ask Moses if he's going to kill them like they killed the other guard. Filled with terror, Moses thought that the Pharaoh would find out what he did, so he decided to run away. Moses then fled to a place called Midian, where he later got married and had a son. While creating a home with his new family, he became a shepherd. You would think at this point his story would be over and it would be a happily ever after, right? Well, you're right. Well, that's this week's episode of Nerd for the Word. That was fun. We're done? Okay, cool. Psych! This story's just beginning. You thought this was over. Okay, so get this. One day, while attending to his flock, he was encountered by a burning bush. Yes, a burning bush. Now, Moses was amazed, because looking at the bush, he saw that it was burning, but it wasn't being consumed by its flames. Moses probably reacted something like this.
Moses.
Yes?
Moses, here I am.
Yeah?
Do not
where?
come near, but take off your sandals,
Okay. Yeah,
for the place which you stand is holy ground.
okay. If this was me, it would probably go something like this. Whoa, that's cool. A burning bush, which doesn't look like it's burning.
Don't do it. Jake!
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, okay.
Respect the
Hey.
burning bush!
Hey, I got a great idea. You wanna make some s'mores?
Really?
Fine, we won't make s'mores on the burning bush. Sorry. God then went on to introduce himself as the God of his fathers. And Moses was so scared that he actually hit his face. Can you imagine doing that? Hi, my name is Jake. I'm actually the worship leader of my church. Is everything okay? God then explains to Moses that he has heard the cry of his people and that he knows of their suffering. He told Moses that he wanted to send him out to Egypt to deliver his people. Moses probably reacted something like this. Me? You want me to go out there? You have the wrong guy, man. No, me? Do you know who I am? I am not skilled for this. You need someone else. Personally, I think it was just Moses being shocked that God wanted him to do something so important. God did reassure him, letting him know that God would be with him the whole step of the way. Being doubtful, Moses asked God, "What is it I should say to these people?" God told him to say, "The Lord, the God of your fathers, has sent me to you." He told Moses to gather the elders of Israel, to tell them that God has observed them and has heard their cry, and promises to deliver them to a land flowing with milk and honey. God went on to say that his people would listen to his voice, and that when he and the elders reached out to the king of Egypt, and that they would not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. God then told Moses that he would strike down Egypt, and after that the Pharaoh would let Moses and his people go. Now get this, God also promised that they would not leave empty-handed. I believe in the Bible, if you read along, it says that God told them to take the riches of Egypt along with them. Again, Moses, filled with doubt, asked God, what if they don't believe him? God then pointed out Moses' staff and demanded that he threw his staff down. The moment it hit the ground, it turned into a serpent. God then told Moses to pick the snake up by its tail, and as he did, it became a staff again. God continued by asking Moses to put his hand in his cloak. When he pulled it out, his hand was infected. At which point I would have asked God for some Purell. That's just me though. I guarantee God probably, before Moses freaked out, told him to put his hand back in his cloak and that his hand would be healed when he pulled it out. God went on to say that if that didn't work, to take some water from the Nile, put it on the dry ground, and it would turn into blood. That is unsanitary. Even after everything that God showed him, he still went on to say that he was not the man for the job. See, Moses wasn't very good at speaking. That's why he was so determined to not do this mission for him. So God, not being very happy with Moses, provided his brother Aaron to help Moses with speaking. They would then work together as a team. When I was reading this scripture, all I kept thinking about was how God calls everyone to do something. For me, I think it was about being a worship leader and creating Nerd for the Word. This is all the time we have for this week's episode. And this is part 1 to the story of Moses and the burning bush. And tell me, what do you think God called you to do? Let me know in the comments below. Check out all the channels here below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time on Nerd for the Word.